So the Transfer project is an ESRC-funded knowledge exchange project, and the principal aim is to bring together researchers and retailers with interest in promoting sustainable consumption, particularly within clothing and energy retail. And so what sustainable fashion is trying to do is beginning to lead us to question where we're getting our clothes from, to actually try and move our consumption practices towards more sustainable practices, more sustainable sources of clothing. So cotton farmed in a more sustainable way, for example. Well, the film was always intended to be one of the main sort of outputs from the project. We were looking to create a lasting legacy for some of the key findings from the project, something which would be interesting, insightful, shareable, something which would engage people, lead people to question their fashion consumption decisions. So we commissioned the Nothing to Wear video because it actually does illustrate quite nicely one of the key findings from the project. That is that people perhaps confronted by a wardrobe full of clothes, they think that they've got nothing to wear, and this is perhaps driven to some extent by societal pressures telling us to consume more and more and more. And so what we've learned through the project is that this overconsumption is perhaps tied to a lack of awareness as to where things come from. So we commissioned Rob Speranza of the South Yorkshire Filmmakers Network in order to actually produce this work alongside Emily&Anne Animation.
Hi, I'm Rob Speranza. I'm a producer on the project, on the Nothing to Wear project, and I worked with Emily&Anne, the animators, and Dr. Chris Jones, Dr. Natalie McCreesh, and Alex McIntosh, and Helen Story. It was a nice project to work on. It took about a year, really, from the initial gestation of the idea, let's say, the initial approach to delivery of the project. It was about a year to get the whole thing done, and we're talking about threshing out different concepts and threshing out different, kind of ideologies about the idea. Because with animation, you can go so many different places, but it was so cool to be able to have some freedom to do that, and then come up with a story that we all thought was really going to work.
My name is Anne Wilkins, and I'm an animator and short film director.
My name's Billy Payne. I work with Emily&Anne. I'm a sound designer and composer. So it's kind of important that it was, balance the sort of accessibility of the film and the music with the subject matter and the emotional content, I guess.
It was the chance to do a sort of short film with a character. It was, the last couple of films we've done have been more abstract and more about a subject rather than telling a story, a narrative. Also the style of animation that the client went for, quite high-end, quite 2D traditional character, but with quite a lot of facial and character animation.
Also, I think fashion is an artistic thing, and quite often art does well when there are certain constraints. So if you sort of think, well, I've got to be careful about what I buy. I've got to think about where it's come from. I
think especially the last 10 years when places like Primark have become more of a thing. I remember buying a dress, and at the beginning of the summer, by the end of the summer it was completely stretched out of shape, and you can't remember which clothes you look better in, which ones you get nicer compliments for, which ones you just feel better in. And it's pretty simple equation. The kind of clothes that I could still wear after 10 years were the ones that did cost more but came from a more sustainable place. And I think it's really good that particularly social media, that people can make companies more accountable for where their clothes come from. I think most people they know it, but maybe they still kind of go, oh, it's alright. And I think the film is a way of reminding, you think about where your things come from and why.
I thought this is going to be a challenging project, going to be tough. And after seeing the kind of work, the amount of work that Emily&Anne were putting into it, and the kind of difficulty sometimes applying conceptual ideas and theoretical concepts and beliefs, into something that is going to be a concrete story in animation.
biggest challenge was finalising the story. It's a client, partly because it was inspired by their research, and their research is naturally cumulative, so it's not like they had a kind of and this is your definite conclusion, and also because it is a topic which requires discussion, and there's different reasons that different people buy their clothes, there's a lot of variables, so it wasn't really a kind of open and shut, this is the story, this is the conclusion of the story, make the film.
After, interestingly, getting a couple of little work-in-progress films of Anne and Emily actually doing the animation, so seeing the amount that goes into just creating one of the frames, you can understand why it takes so long to put these kinds of things together, especially when we are basically inventing a character, we're inventing a new character. And to do that and express her personality and capture that in the film actually takes quite a lot of work and concentration and man hours, really. So I'm very, very pleased with the end result.
Well, I think that the video is great. I think that it has done everything that I would have hoped it would do. It's communicating what is a relatively simple but very important message in a very engaging way. It certainly brings together a lot of different kinds of styles that, again, I wouldn't have considered. I was kind of thinking of a cartoon initially, and this is much more than that. It's relatively short, it's shareable, and so I think that it's, exactly what we wanted.